Again, I want to make a requested video about volume profile. What is volume profile, the structure of volume profile, how I use it for my entries and exits. So without further ado, let's get right to it. So for starters, I have the blog post that I go over, which is great in addition to this video. It's more in depth, goes over the structure, different types of profiles, and really gives you an overall in-depth experience of learning what volume profile is. The links to my studies, volume profile, at the bottom I have the chart layout for Thinkorswim. I have the chart layout for TradingView, so you can use both. TradingView, you have to pay for the indicator on a paid account. With Thinkorswim, I use it mainly with Thinkorswim. Thinkorswim overall has a better platform for charting. If you use Webull, E-Trade, Fidelity, Merrill Lynch, whatever it may be, set up a Thinkorswim account. You can go to TD Ameritrade, create a free account, deposit $1. You may not even have to deposit money, and then you'll be able to set up volume profile and start charting. They are hands down probably one of the best softwares to use for charting, in my opinion. So without further ado, let's get into volume profile, what it is, and how to get it set up. So when you type in your ticker, ES or SPY or whatever, you'll be with a blank screen. First off, remove every indicator you have. My opinion, stop using all the bullshit trading algos, all these MACDs, 1330 courses, 520, 50, the 520, 50, EMA, SMA. They're great if you want to use them and they work for you. God bless you. But to me, they don't work. I used to try every indicator, stochastics, oscillators, and I just didn't find any of them to work. The one that I found to work that hasn't steered me wrong yet is volume profile. So to learn the basics of volume profile, watch it with price action, your candle patterns, and your chart patterns, and you'll be able to start seeing how powerful the tool is. Click on Studies in the top left, top right, click on Edit Studies, type in volume profile, and then click on Add. Click on Settings, and let me just show you what happens when you just add volume profile the basic way. You'll see this big bar on the right hand side, and that's not what we're looking for. I also switch to a 30-minute time frame. I do all my charting on 30 minutes for a volume profile, sometimes at 1 hour, and I'll go over later why. Another thing to note, I use extended hours for futures, but when I chart with stocks like Apple, Microsoft, Tesla, I turn off extended hours. It messes up the volume profile, and it will disrupt the exact level. So to do that, click on Settings, click on Equities, Volume Profile, Show Extended Hours, uncheck that. You can also do this little check mark box next to it, and that way it will put it in your style menu. For futures, click on Show Extended Trading Hours, make sure it's on, and click Apply. So that way, right up when you click on style, instead of having to go to settings every time, you can just turn it on and off. Keeps it very simple. Now to fix our volume profiles, to have it displayed the way we want, click on Studies, Edit Studies, click on the gear icon. You're going to change price per row, tick size, time for profile, day. Now there's many different types. You can do weekly, monthly, quarterly. I use the daily. On expansion, no. Show value area, yes. Show point control, yes. Value area percent, 68 is what I use. 68 is a standard deviation, not 70%. Below, you can change your colors. And let me just show you what we're looking at right now. This is what it should look like. Now right click on it, click Edit Studies again. Click on Global Profile. Make it a little bit easier on your eyes. You can do a lighter blue. You can change the point of control color to be yellow if you want, red, whatever color. So this is where we're at right now. You have your volume profile set up very nicely. Now, let's go over what is volume profile, the structure. The big bars popping out that look like volume bars that are horizontal are nodes. You have high volume nodes, and then you have low volume nodes. So the difference between high volume nodes and low volume nodes are high volume nodes, sometimes there's balance is what happens in these zones. Sometimes price also gets sucked into these low volume nodes, such as this, and you get wicks that form. Now, let's go over the next part of volume profile. The three key points that you need to notice are the value area high, the value area low, and the point of control. POC is what we refer to it as. POC is the point of control, which is where the most amount of volume contracts are traded. Now, let's go over a few examples. I will go over SPY, and we're going to chart it out for you. We're going to give you a live example of SPY. See how I have extended hours turned off? Makes it much nicer to view where we are and to respect. So right here, and I'm going to actually go to my layout because I have it right here. You can change your background layout. I don't like the background layout that they have currently. I changed it to black. So what you can do is you can just go to Appearance, Background, Black, Grid. I remove the grid lines, and I like to keep it nice and clean. Now to draw out your volume profile, and not your volume profile, your point of controls and the levels you want to watch, on the bottom right here, you can see this little arrow. You'll have a pointer icon. So you click on the pointer, and then you click on price line. Price line, let's say you just put a price line. Your line's going to look a little bit different than mine. Probably going to be a solid line and a different color. So to edit your style, you right click, click edit properties, change the color to whatever you want. I have it as a dashed, and then I have show price on the right and right extension on. Click on save as default, so that way whenever you draw your price line, it'll always be the same style. That makes it very easy so you don't have to keep changing things. Right click, click on remove drawing. Now let's draw out the point of control. So interestingly enough, on SPY, we have these zones that are not tested are called VPOCs, Virgin Point of Controls that are yet to be tested. And I'm going to show you a great example right here. So let's zoom in. This point of control, when we were in this uptrend, if you were not looking at that right side of the chart, and sometimes too, when your chart looks a little squished, you can click on the chart icon up here and click on Fit Studies and uncheck that. That way you can see and everything doesn't look as squished. So if you mark this off as a point of control, you can see on 811 we bounced right off of it. We came right to the zone and we bounced off of it and continued upward. However though, we then gapped below this point of control here, only to be retested later on, which is why I keep my point of controls on my chart. We came down right to this zone, and if you had this POC marked off because this was a VPOC, was yet to be tested, after we gapped down, we came right down to that point of control at 411.37, and we bounced right off of it. But where did we come up to? We came up to that previous POC at 419, and we rejected. Now, on the downside, when we came back down, we sliced right through it, but we came down to this point of control at 390.73. We're right now hovering around this zone, and we pulled right back up. So it's going to be key going into the following week to see if we hold. But watching volume profile is very key to note your highs, lows, and your entries and exit. I like to wait for either one or two things, a retest failure or a retest confirmation. So for an example of retest confirmation, was this point of control, we chopped around to this level, and right here we also actually hit the value area high. So sometimes you can see that the value area high provides importance, or the value area low would get rejected sometimes. It came right into the zone of the value area high, we bounced off the point of control, and on that second bounce is where I could have took some calls or buy commons and went long to see if we actually hold this bounce. And sure enough we did, and I would have had this point of control up here noted to see if we were even also possibly go for the gap fill to the upside. Down to the downside, we came straight down to tested a few different VPOCs. We had a VPOC down here, we had a VPOC down here, and we had a VPOC finally down here. The 3090.73 VPOC, which is now VPOC just a POC, we ended up holding pretty decently. This is where right now it's going to be pivotal to make sure that we can hold this and try to bounce up to the upside. Now, when looking at volume profile and looking at the daily profile, I also like to look at the weekly profile. And I'm going to show you an example. Let's go to Apple's chart. So Apple right now, here's just the daily profile. We had POC up here that we rejected, pulled back down to, tested a POC right here, and then bounced and ripped. went straight up. Now let me show you the weekly, for example. And on that bounce here, this is where you could have took your chance of entering into calls. That's a retest confirmation. We held, candle closed strong, and we ended up going right back up. Now let's go over the weekly, because the weekly is very important. I don't know, I want to show you something. So now, when I look at the data, you can only do up to 90 days on the 30 minute, so I switched to the 180 days or 360 days, 1 hour. So here's the 360 day 1 hour. This weekly profile right here, and let me switch to my weekly time frames so that I have everything already charted out to show you, and I'm going to annotate this chart. This weekly profile right here is where we had a rejection. We had the double top, retest failure. This is where you could have took your puts and played the downside. This weekly POC again, once again, sure enough, was rejected twice, here and here. So you had the first time, if you missed this little rally and you want to take puts and you missed it, you had the second chance. Came down. Later on, we retest that POC, and this is why I leave them up. Retested, came down, retested, came down. So, though, the one thing to note is switching between the 180 day, 30 minute, watch what happens to that POC. So that POC moved from 167 down to 166. So that's why it's good to check 1 hour and 30 minute and sometimes note both. That is why I always check both time frames. Now, with charting and with using the weekly, I look at it for the big picture, which is why I always have it up. I like to watch where we are and to respect from the daily as well as the weekly. And now when I look at my weekly for Apple, my daily for Apple, you can see we're a little bit right now in a POC. We closed above this POC level, which is not this POC, but a level from a ways back. 155.72, we're holding. I'd like to just see if we can hold and possibly get a bounce. Now I use these levels to the upside as retest failures, as price targets. Downside, these are levels as we have a VPOC right here at 154.19. So if we break down and close below this 155, you could play puts to the downside and target that VPOC. And if we slice right through it, your next level would be around the 151. So looking at the different types, you can either chart out different types. So I chart out on the daily, the weekly. You can create a new drawing set. I have one called Simple, where I just have the daily and the weeklies. And these are just high level concepts of big picture where we're at. It's like we have a VPOC down here at 147. We have a weekly POC down at 145. Now, you can play to these downside targets as long as we reject the upside targets. But having these levels noted, especially such as the 160, if you removed it, you would have not known that this was a double top here, and you would have been questionable as to why we came down. But leaving sometimes the POCs until they're absolutely manipulated and not respected well with being rejected or held, that's when then you can remove them. But if you held this level, kept it, this was okay. I'd like to see them tested a few times before I remove them or keep it. We rejected it once. Here was your second entry for puts, and boom, came right down. So this was overall just a short video of using volume profile. The links for the chart setups that I use are in the blog post. If you have any questions, hop in the Discord, ask me. I do live streams around once a week going over volume profile, charting out different stocks for you guys. And hopefully this was informative. Thank you for your time, and hope you guys have a great week.